Okay, guys, here to talk about the new field to finish that's up and coming here. Just kind of going over the details, giving a little intro to it. This is a drawing that contains all of the field codes that the field crews will be using. So this is kind of the drawing where we run tests on everything before we get into drafting. So the idea with this new field to finish is that it will kind of expedite the drafting process and kind of take care of those mundane drafting tasks that pop up that should really be taken care of automatically. At least that's the way we see it. I've been working with Josh here, and we've been dialing this sucker in. So let me just go over somehow the objects have changed and some of the advantages that go along with that. Um, so here the new field to finish has been run, and basically these are all objects that are coming in as point attributes. So remember when you would run field to finish, and there would be a small little point attribute here with the point number, description, and elevation. Well, now we're putting those to use and actually making those plot and changing some of their settings and sizes to display in a fashion that is acceptable for a topographic survey. So in this case, we ran field to finish, and this point attribute comes in as the spot elevation. So this is what the spot elevation is going to look like. Doesn't look any different than the piece of text that came in, as you can see, but it is a block reference. It's actually one of those point IDs, serve point number 09. So we're actually using those point attributes that come along with the points to use. The advantage of that is they are aware of each other and their positions. So what ends up happening is they're able to automatically shift and rotate away from lines that have just been drawn and away from other spot elevations. So here's one I made a little cluster of points here, and all these points have automatically kind of organized themselves. So in a situation where you got a cluster of spot elevations, you'll see that for the most part it's going to take care of you. It's going to rotate everything out. Flip the label to the other side, maybe. In this case, these two flip to the other side. Some of these rotated, and you can set the priorities for how these objects are automatically moved. So this happened. This all happened automatically, and you can imagine on a really large topo with thousands of spot elevations, how advantageous that would be. Something that would normally take a couple hours, 3 hours to organize the spots, will now take about 30 seconds. So that's a big difference. Anyway, so that's kind of the direction we're going and what we're going to be seeing here. So just to kind of go over some of the details of what's changing, let me just touch on a couple points here. So the spot elevations are going to come in as a point attribute layer like this, and you could see that the point number and the description are not coming in. And originally we had them coming in, but what happens is the rotations and the shifts and the flips are also taken into account those other point IDs, point number, and the description. And we were finding that it wasn't organizing the spots very well. In fact, it couldn't do the rotation command at all. That's one of the requirements. It has to be one point attribute for the rotation command to work. So we went in the direction of just displaying the point attribute that is going to be plotting at the end of the day. And we'll go over how to display the point description, number, and elevation separately from the field to finish a little bit later. So here you can see another object here, clean out, that's plotted, and you can see that the description, the tag that's on this, is also coming in as a point attribute. So this will actually organize itself, rotate itself, shift it, flip it, this description, this tag, same as the spot elevation. So those are all going to be um, self-aware also, and they'll organize themselves. Roof elevations, finished floor elevation, same thing. The only things that aren't going to change at this point, like right now, are catch basins. A piece of text still comes in for those. We're still working on that arena there. Um, and vaults. We still have a piece of text coming in for vaults and transformers and things like that. So that doesn't change, not yet, anyways. And the spot elevations that come in for anything are going to be, they're going to be a point attribute. So right now we're just kind of doing the broad strokes. So we'll get into the details later, but just trying to introduce you to what's going on here. Let's see. So I think that's about it. One thing to remember is um, another advantage that we're looking to gain is layer control. So when I click on this, you can see that the block is on the point layer, utility power existing point layer, and so now all the point layers are actually going to plot. That's another big change because we had all the point layers not plotting before. So that's going to be a huge change. And the advantage there is we're actually going to gain some additional layer control that I think is really going to help things out. So let's just let's deal with that in a video to come, and I'll show you how all that works. Let me just kind of let you know a few other changes. We've added some utility text layers, so water existing text. I don't think that existed. Irrigation existing text, that didn't exist, I don't believe. We've added a layer called PNT, point elevation no plot layer, so PNT ELEV underscore NPLT, and that is set up for situations where we want the elevation to come in, and but we don't want it to plot. And I'll show you some of the situations that'll be the case a little bit later. Some extra utility texts and some of the other layers that didn't have a text layer are now coming in because we wanted a scenario where um, we wanted to play on the layer control the best that we possibly can, and having these objects, these blocks, come in on the point layer, and also the text within that block is coming in on the point description layer. Um, the object text layer rather gives you maximum control. So that's why we've added a lot of those layers. The spot elevation layer, you can tell, comes in the same color as before. This layer within the block, and hang with me here. This layer within the block is actually on this layer, point elevation layer. So this is a block that's on this point layer, and within this block is this piece of attribute text, and that's actually the point elevation layer. And just a FYI if you follow that. And let's see, any other notes here? I think that's about it. For the trees, just keep in mind that we are having spot elevations come in for the tree bases, because occasionally we want those added to the survey. Those are generally going to be on a no plot layer. So if you want them to come in, you want them to show up, just turn that into a plot layer. But otherwise, their default are going to be off. I think that's probably not as helpful as other spot elevations, because there's usually a little bit of a hump to the tree. So anyways, that's kind of an intro into what is changing, and we'll get into a little bit more details later. Okay, until then, thanks, guys.